actually expected less people than this because like it's Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, so I know how hard it was for you to wake up and come to this event. But I hope that you will learn something new, and of course we will hear an interesting story by our guest, Professor Ricardo Rosas. He is an eminent professor from University of Santiago in Chile, and he is very widely cited. He's written a lot of papers on intelligence and executive functions, neuropsychology, and actually I look up into him as one of my idols, I would say, in science. So when I grow up, I would like to be like Ricardo. So yeah. First of all, Ricardo, welcome to Sarajevo, welcome to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I would like, for the beginning, to ask you, how did you choose your profession as a psychologist? When did you decide that you want to be a psychologist?
First of all, thank you for coming. If this event would occur in Chile, nobody would come. This is for sure. In Latin America in general, nobody is at the 8 in the morning on a Saturday. So thank you very much for coming. This is a very good question. You know, this is a very good question. I raised up in this more science-oriented family. My father was a physician, yeah. And he always wanted me to be also a physician, but I can't see blood, you know? If I see blood, it's me. And so, yes, and so economy was my first option, but no, not my first option. The school psychologist's first option. She said, you must study economy. And I really don't want that because, you know, I raised up during Pinochet era, and in Pinochet, under Pinochet, economists were really the support of the regime, you know, because he was in the regime. There were a lot of economists, and no, I didn't want that. And they chose psychology by chance.
By chance?
Yes, because it was half scientist, half humanist. It was okay.
Okay option. Well, you turned out very well, so great. Yesterday we heard, okay, great.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, because we cannot have a chat without coffee, so this is how it works. Yesterday we heard a very, very interesting presentation about executive function, and I know it's a very, very hot topic in psychology, but in science in general. In education, for example, me as a special educator do a lot of research on executive functions and its connection to academic skills. Yesterday you mentioned briefly connection of executive functions with reading. Is the relationship as strong with mathematics as well?
Oh yes, there's a lot of research in the last 5 years, I would say, about this topic. Victoria and Pablo are really good experts on that topics, and this is very interesting because, you know, executive functions are really more about updating, inhibiting, and shifting, you know, because when you learn to read or when you learn everything or any conceptual thing, to learn to read is really to adopt a science system. And to adopt a science system is not trivial, it's not easy, because you have to really ignore what is natural to you, the fluent reading and the fluent speaking, and adopt a system that is not natural. And to do that, you must be flexible, and you must have a mental capability that allows that. And this is the reason why executive functioning is so good related to math and reading. And so, and this is the reason why preschool is so important. Because preschool must enhance not the actual abilities, but the sustain of those abilities. How? With play, for instance. Play is the best activity, Vygotsky said that 80 years ago, 100 years ago, no? Play is the best activity for that. Because in play, you learn to inhibit, you learn to comprehend things, and you learn to be flexible.
Yeah, great. Yesterday you showed us an interesting test, marshmallow. Most of us are probably familiar with the test. And you know, I, as a scientist as well, tried the same thing with my daughter. And she used different strategy to resist eating the marshmallow. You know, at first she was looking away from the marshmallow, and then she said, I will just have a little bit, I hope it doesn't come. So is she helpless? Like, if children cannot resist, what can we say about that? Is it developmental stage, or?
What can you say about that? Sometimes I can't resist to drink a beer, you know?
Yeah.
So it's this way.
That happens. And one very interesting question you mentioned yesterday, and I also have some difficulties explaining my students the conceptual differences between two notions. One is intelligence and the other is executive functions. Especially when you have some common features. For example, all theories of intelligence consist of working memory. And also almost all theories of executive functions also consist of working memory. So how would you explain that to lay persons, for example?
No, this is a very good question. I think the correct answer is that they share this common concept. Executive functioning and intelligence they share this common attribute. But I would say in executive functions there is more implicated the shift, the updating quality of working memory than the capacity one. You know, the capacity one is more involved in intelligence. The uploading quality is more involved in executive functioning.
That's a nice explanation. So intelligence deals with quantitative aspect, while the executive functions deals with qualitative.
No, intelligence is also in fluid intelligence. It's also the updating quality is involved in fluid intelligence. In crystallized intelligence is more involved the capacity quality. You know. But I would say in executive functioning is more present the uploading quality only.
Okay, that's an interesting aspect. And also in executive functions, we have these hot aspects, as you mentioned, like behavioral inhibition, which is not a usual part of regular intelligence. And of course, this coffee with professors is, we imagine it as a forum where you can ask questions as well. I mean, I will not abuse my position as a moderator, so of course you are very much welcome to ask any questions that you might have on this subject, or generally any area of psychology, education, and especially that part of neuropsychology, executive functions, intelligence. So please feel free to ask questions. And now I will see, let me see who will break the ice with the questions. Let me see, come on. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Dan Stevanovic and I'm a child psychiatrist. I'm as well doing a lot of things related to clinical neuropsychology, and I would like to challenge something here. Would you mind please explaining a bit in details how actually marshmallow we now know from different aspects of neuroscience that that is something related to delaying gratification and reward sensitivity. So something related to executive function is not necessarily related basically to our skills that are developed, but something that we are born with that is related to our gratification system and reward system. That's one thing. So would you like to discuss and I will continue, or?
Oh, you can continue, yeah.
Then the other thing is actually related that executive functions are something that is developing until early 20s, and then since I'm working in a daily basis with children and adolescents with psychiatric disorders, and those who we see a lot of, along their development, we see that they are much improved in executive functions over the years. And the third thing is related to hot and cold aspects of executive functions, because even though we are much targeting in our interventions primarily cold functions, and most of the tests are basically within the cold, I think that the hot aspects are something that is really impairing in a clinical practice, and something that is very hard to challenge and to work with. And that part is, I think, that only is related to clinical psychiatry, and something that we can do with medications and biology. So that's, I think, that's three things.
Thank you. Okay, this is a good question, a very good question. It's related to the reward system, delayed gratification, and of course some aspects of executive functions are developing into late adulthood, actually. That's why I usually tell to my students, why young children do stupid things. I mean, you can find neurological explanation for that, because their frontal lobe is not developed, is not matured yet. But as for the other aspects, I would like Ricardo, the expert in the field, to answer these questions. So please.
No, I really don't have an answer for that, because I think there is not enough research on that. We don't have techniques, developed techniques that could enhance the hot aspects of executive functions. It's very hard to do that, I think, because we don't even understand very well how they are developed, you know. And so I will take it from the other side. When you lose your executive functions, for instance, in an accident, an ACD or whatever, you can lose that. You can lose the capacity to have self-control and etc. etc. And to recover that is almost impossible. So we have, I think there is something, some neurological basis that we are not understanding very well. How is it built? Probably how is it built safely in the development? And so we even don't understand how we lose that and how we can reconstruct that. So I don't have an answer for your question, because this is a very good question, but I don't have an answer. I will, but I will try one thing. We know that in the normal development, you're right that executive functions like intelligence, like fluid intelligence, are developed very well until 25 years, approximately, okay? Why 25 years? What explains that? With 25 years, the majority of the population stop the study, the formal study, okay? And this is very impressive. In the standardization of the WISE worldwide, you see clearly that with 25 years, fluid intelligence begins a very, very hard decline, okay? And this is interesting. When you select people that don't stop to study, people that earn a PhD, people, for instance, they begin to decline with 30. So you can make possible that the decline begins later. So if you maintain yourself mental active, you can prevent the decline. This is good news for you all, guys. Please continue reading, continue studying.
So that's a take-home message, definitely. As you study longer, then you will be, I guess your fluid intelligence will be at that peak point for a longer time. And I just wanted to add, are there gender differences between males and females in that frontal lobe maturation?
I really don't know, but I can see you that there is gender differences in hot versus cold executive function. Girls tends to be better in hot executive functioning than boys and vice versa.
Yeah. And just something like that neurological aspect, medical aspect of the thing. Actually, some medications do have an effect on hot executive functions. For example, in ADHD, we have medication, we have psychostimulants that actually help children to better control their impulses. So that's one of the aspects. I'm not sure how it works on molecular level, probably by increasing like dopamine level or whatever, but it still can affect that segment. Okay, thank you very much. This is a very fruitful conversation. Let's go on with the questions. Now let's see who will. Students need to know that they will have an extra point when they ask a question. So, as a stimulus. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Hanna Matric. I'm a student on our university pedagogy faculty, and my question is the executive functions, how are they somehow affected also by highly intelligent children? We talked about children with intellectual disabilities, but with highly intelligent children, is it also good developing as the intelligence or not so much?
That's a good question. Asking about correlation between intelligence and executive functions. For example, you have cases where highly intelligent people do not, so yeah, they have sometimes weak executive functions. So
Yes, this is a very good question. What we know is that, you know, intelligence tests are not so good to have a good diagnostic of executive functioning because they are more mainly and principally the fluent intelligence tests are easily responded by people that have almost no executive function. For instance, you can see that in children with autistic spectrum disorder, high functioning intellectually, they can solve the Raven without a problem, or the Raven, but they really have no executive functioning. So the correlation is, in the mean, is high, about 0.6 I would say, but in the extremes are very low. So this is a good question, and I think this is how you can also understand how both constructs are so different, you know, because the construct of intelligence is in some terms ill-defined if you only think it from the fluid intelligence perspective. When you correlate the whole test, fluid plus crystallized intelligence, then the correlation is higher in the extremes.
that's interesting. I hope that answers your question. And I also want to say that Ricardo is very involved in actually practical aspects of assisting people and children with disabilities. And I'm not sure about yesterday you showed the website. What exactly do you do at your center for developing the software and that aims to help children with different types of disabilities?
Yes, our main interest is from ever has been the reading ability of children with disabilities. You know, reading is a key ability. If you don't access the reading, you cannot be continue with school. And so all our developments in our center is related to reading. We have mainly 4 things, and all our stuff is for free, and you can adapt it for your particular languages. The first of all is a software for the deaf. You know, deaf children have really a big problem to learn to read. And why? Because they don't have access to the sounds of their language. And our languages, Bosnian and Spanish, very particularly, are an exact copy of the sounds of the language in the written form. Okay, and so if you don't have access to the sounds, you will not have access to the written form of the sounds. And so we developed a software that makes it possible with a technology called chaining, that makes it possible that deaf children access to the written language. All of our softwares are very playful, you know, so children can involve, they have, and this software is actually exists in 12 or 13 different sign languages all over the world, and if some of you are interested, we give you all the assistance to have this version in Bosnian Sign Language, okay? It's of course, it's all for free, and we give you the assistance to have the software. The software is really very good, and it became a very prestigious prize in 2011. The second one is for the blind. We developed a software for reading for the blind. I think you don't have this problem, but in Chile, still blind children learn to read with the slate, you know? Slate?
Yes, letters.
No, the slate is you have
Dots, like dots.
Yes, you have to write the dots, okay? And by doing that, you have to write it from right to left, turning the page and read from left to right. This is really a huge demand for the working memory, so blind children don't have this possibility, and we developed the software to learn that. And the third is a technology for children with Down syndrome to learn to read. Is an app with a tablet, and we developed the software based on the holistic method of reading that allows the children to read. And lastly, we have a math app also for children with disabilities.
Yeah, we will definitely try to adapt that math application. As yesterday Professor said, we adapted yellow-red version. Now you will have the opportunity to see the software, how it actually works. So how does the assessment looks like? And it was really, I have to praise your software. It is really game-like, and children loved it. You know, when you come to do the assessment, they just think, oh, we are going to play these interesting games. You will see flies and stuff like that. So how did you come up with the idea to develop that software?
No, we always have the idea of learning by playing, you know. This old idea of Vygotsky, this is one of my favorite ideas, because he said the only activity in which the mediator is not a human but the game rule is the PlayStation. No? So the children can learn by themselves in his famous paper of play and learning, you know. And this idea was for me is the seminal idea of all of my work. Okay, if you give a child the possibility of play, the child can do anything by himself. And this idea, I think it's very good, and this is the main idea in all of our developments. If the child is not having fun, you can have the best potential of this child.
Oh, great. So you basically translated Vygotsky's ideas into a practical application.
Yes, you know, remember Vygotsky said, he theorized it at that time. He theorized it, if I would have the technology to detect the zone of proximal development of each child in the room, I would give them immediately a task at their level.
Yeah.
He said that in 1920, you know, it is crazy. And
He was way ahead of his time,
Yes.
definitely. Okay, we will conclude this session shortly and then see the presentation of the software. I will just leave some more opportunities for questions. Feel free to ask anything that comes to your mind. Yes, please.
First of all, I would like to say good morning, everyone here. Never mind, I'm loud. Okay, first of all, I would like to say good morning to everyone here. And something that I want to say, it's more a digression, not a question, but maybe a year or 2 years ago, my friend and I were talking about executive functions because we had that subject at our professor on faculty. And we were talking about that theme, so we were really busy in that period, you know, exams and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, I have so much struggle with, I don't know, planning things and, you know, organize. And she was like, oh, maybe I have a problem with my executive functions. And after that, when we finished our lessons at our professor for executive functions, we actually realized that no, she doesn't have a problem with executive function, and that was pretty much really stressed period. And after we heard a lot about that theme now, we are much sure that she actually doesn't have a problem with that. So yeah, thank you.
So maybe like a comment on planning and...
Yes, we usually confound laziness with boringness, you know. When ADHD children, many ADHD children are really not ADHD children. They are bored. They are bored in a really boring classroom with a boring professor or teacher, you know. And so, and they are, and if you can follow and anticipate everything what your teacher will say in the next 45 minutes, of course you will not spend these 45 minutes hearing to the teacher. You will hear yourself and imagine things and creating things or whatever, you know. So the big challenge of teachers is to have the potentially ADHD children or not ADHD children really, you know, enhanced in what you are saying. If not, you are not a good teacher.
Any more questions? Okay, no more questions. Now we will go to see the presentation of yellow-red software, and you will actually see how this executive functions assessment looks like in real life. So you will actually see the tests for behavioral inhibition, cognitive flexibility, and working memory. So please join us in the next room where we will have that demonstration. Thank you.